that insecure girl to the really tenacious and determined version of myself really almost astounded me. And I was very curious, how did that happen?
If I could go back in my lifetime and say, what's a big mistake? I wish I figured this out earlier.
Ask questions, ask why.
It takes a special leader to help you grow in a certain role.
Doesn't matter how I speak, doesn't matter how I look.
And it holds true as you think big and don't let anybody stop you.
Now that's a success story. Welcome back, everybody, to this edition of Success Stories. I'm Steve Cross, the host, and today we have, coming out of New York, we have Liza Streiff. She is the CEO of Knopman Marks. Liza, thanks for being on today.
Thanks for having me, Steve. I'm excited to chat.
Great. We don't really know each other. We had a quick chat pre-production, but other than that, I'm interested to hear your story, how you got to where you are, and let's get right into it. So, when you think about your success story, or when you tell your success story, kind of where's that start for you?
You know, my success story really starts in college, because in college I had to overcome a lot of challenges I didn't see coming, and I'm in the business of training professionals for their high stakes exams. And I gotta tell you, I hated taking tests. I hated school growing up. I wasn't paying attention. Nobody really explained to me how learning even worked. So I just figured I wasn't that great at it. And I procrastinated. And when tests would come, even if I did study, have you ever had one of those moments where you're in there and you just forget what you know? You just blank. Yeah. So I had a lot of those. But when I was in college, a lot of things basically went wrong in my life and in my family. And one of the big ones was learning that my father was living a double life. So when I was 19, he was getting arrested. My mom had 5 kids under me to take care of, no savings. It was just crazy. It was chaos. And that was one of those moments where I had to figure out who I was going to be and what I was going to either let happen or make happen. And I decided that my future was going to be really big. I decided that I was going to overcome whatever challenges were happening, because I had 5 people, my younger brothers and sisters and my mother, that really were those reasons, right? And I think when you find those reasons, you can overcome anything. So even though part of me said, quit school, double down on that waitressing job, just help mom out, there was another part of me that said, no, there's something more in you and it's time to figure it out. So I went back to school, overloaded on courses. I actually took 24 credits in one summer. I got a third job. I somehow, it was actually sometimes increasing the level of challenge is what I needed. And I rose to that level. I graduated early, and I was 21 when I got my first job, and it's been a nonstop road since then. But that change in my own story, that seeing the kind of student I was to the student that I became, that insecure girl to the really tenacious and determined version of myself, really almost astounded me. And I was very curious, how did that happen? What happened? And that curiosity essentially led to the obsession that has been the last couple decades of my career. So it started with my own, success, overcoming challenges in college that then led to, I guess, professional success, only because I've been obsessed with trying to understand those questions ever since. And I think probably like you, the more you're curious about something, the more you can find out information that helps other people along the way.
Sure. Yeah.
So
with your own discovery, right? Because then
Exactly.
you can help others. Yeah. Not to dive into the personal side too much. So you had that experience. You had these things come to light when you were 19 in college. Did you, when you talk about having those 5 siblings and your mother, was it like a real singular point in time where you can remember sitting there, or was it just kind of an evolution over a couple weeks, couple months, where you're just like, this is what I got to do?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I would say both. There were moments immediately, but those moments were really, I'd say, bleak. So there were moments immediately that were more overwhelmed, just stuck in the overwhelm.
Imagine.
Have you ever had that experience where something really catastrophic happens in your life and it's actually the next day that's the worst? When you wake up and you wish it was all a nightmare, but you realize this is life now. And so
Yes, real life.
I'd say there were those moments, but in the early days, those moments were more just complete overwhelm and shock. And I didn't really have the wherewithal to decide I was going to do anything differently other than I need help. Like I need to, like I'm 19, I'm not 5, right? Like I need to step up. So that was the only, I'd say, inkling in the short term that I realized. And then it was in the weeks that followed, right? The moments where you have these decisions. And what had happened was actually towards the tail end of my sophomore year. And it was in that summer that followed that I think there were just really a lot of those moments where I had to decide what was I going to do. And, you know, it's seasons of our life, I think, that define us, not just one day. It's the season, you know? So, and I've seen it, you know, I learned the previous year, another tragedy that had happened was my brother had cancer. And I learned, talk about leadership. I learned through him that there was a choice we all make when we're faced with hard things. And up until that point, I was, you know, kind of a high drama teenage girl and thought that my problems were actually problems.
Real problems, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And when I saw him navigating, and ultimately he did, thank God, survive, but he lost his leg through the experience. But what I saw him navigating with such acceptance and concern for others through the experience, it was almost shocking in a way that it really shifted my whole mindset, my whole paradigm of there's another way we approach things in life. There's another option. And so I luckily had the opportunity to observe that before this experience of my own, that I knew I wanted to be that way. I wanted to at least aspire to navigating this experience in that similar way.
You had a goal. You had a goal, a tangible, real goal that you saw in front of you, how to act, how to be. Yeah, that's great. Now, when you were going to school, have you always, because it sounds like now, but without trying to get too far ahead, that you are very much into helping people. Kind of sounds like, I mean, 10 minutes into this, I kind of get that feeling. Was that when you were going to school, did you change your major? Did you have a career path that you thought you were going to go on that you kind of deviated from, or kind of take us through that?
So I majored in communications and business, but I thought I was going to, after graduation, go back to school and go to film school. So I loved the idea of going to film school because I love telling stories and telling people's stories. And I didn't do that because things happened that I wasn't planning. And really after school, all I cared about was a paycheck, right? I wasn't looking for pursuing my passion any further. But it's been interesting how some of those same curiosities and passions are still true today. Like I am not a director, I don't make movies, but it's that curiosity of other people's stories that still really just still drive me in terms of understanding people that, I think are still there today.
Yeah. So let's take you after school. Where's that first paycheck come from? Where do you run to next?
So it's the same place I am today. I graduated school, as I said, looking for a paycheck. I took the first job offer I got, and it was at this little company, little startup type of company, and at the time called Knopman Financial Training. And our founder, Harvey Knopman, and his partner, Brian Marks, his business partner, and I was the third employee. And I just figured, great, I can help them a lot. I'm going to roll up my sleeves. I'm going to learn a ton in this next year. And then I'll move on to something, cool. Yeah, so I started for a paycheck, but I really stayed for a calling because I immediately got to talk to people who were on the other side of that journey that I had just come to. And, we're facing their high stakes moments. We're studying for these exams. And I just got hooked. How could we make this better? How could we make this a better experience? Because I hated that experience, taking those tests. And, and I also just fell in love with entrepreneurship in a way that I didn't even know was an option when I was graduating college and started building a company. And a few years in, it was just so gratifying. We had more clients. We had been training all these students. And I couldn't leave after that. I just loved
Yeah.
it too much, but it's been new challenges along the way as we've grown a business. We've now trained hundreds of thousands of students. We work with over 500 of the top firms across the industry, in the financial industry. So it's really amazing what we've built, but I am one of those rare people who is still in the same exact company
Yeah, it's
since I
crazy.
graduated college.
I can't remember the last time I spoke to someone who kind of is in that same path that you had with the first job out, stayed there, because it's very, I mean, I think as time goes by, I think it's even more uncommon now. You know, it's what was a stat, like I think 10 or 15 years ago, it was like you're gonna have 7 different careers or 7 different jobs in your career. It's not like our parents like 60 years ago, where you know, kind of that's what your mindset, not mindset, but kind of your path has been, where they got that job out of school or high school or after the service and they stayed there. So do you, I'm assuming that you had a great mentor, or a couple great mentors there internally, because I would bet that you wouldn't stay there that long had you not. So kind of talk through that, maybe some internal resources at the company, or maybe some group or people out externally that helped you along the way.
Yeah, that's a good question. There were definitely a couple. So internally, there weren't a lot of us, but definitely in the
Small
early,
group, right? Yeah.
yeah, but definitely in the early years, Harvey Knopman, he was the founder. He was a great mentor to me. You know, he really challenged me a lot, and it was great. I mean, he can be a very intimidating person, but he had this just tenacity, but confidence that we would figure it out in situations that I would think, we can't say yes to that, or we don't, how are we going to do that? And he told me early in one of my interviews, say yes and then go figure it out. And so I learned that from him. And to this day,
Yeah.
I am much more in that mindset now, right? Like, okay, we'll figure it out. And so he mentored me a lot, just gave me a lot of lessons really in how to be a professional, how to treat clients. I mean, he was just so sincerely interested in them and how we could serve them, even in beyond ways they would ask. And he taught me to say thank you. I know that that sounds trite, but really almost every single day I left the office, if he was still there, he would I'd be halfway down the hall, he'd call me back, Liza, thank you for today. And that, I mean, those little things, maybe that's what kept me there. It was just the appreciation that somebody has for your work is huge. So I'd say he was one. Another one, not at work, but she was a mentor to me in, I'd say, the early years when I have 3 children now, and, you know, navigating work and motherhood and all the things, it's a challenge. And there's a woman named Jean who became a mentor of mine, and she was a lifelong coach. She never formally coached me, but I just benefited from being in her presence.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, you know, I was going through a time at work where there was a lot of change, a lot of turmoil, a lot of uncertainty. And I would often vent to her about, you know, this person or that person, or leadership not doing this or that, right? And it's not uncommon. Many people do that. But she would stop me in my tracks and just say things like, okay, so is that person ever going to change? Is that person going to change? And I would just have to kind of pause and acknowledge, no. And she would just be very calm. Okay, so what do you want to do about it? And I would always just have to come back to the realization that I could not control anybody but myself. And that oftentimes the things that I was frustrated about were the exact opportunities for me to step up and to lead and to offer, versus just complaining, seeing a problem and just being frustrated, versus seeing a problem and realizing, oh, this is an amazing opportunity for me to add value in a way that other people just don't have the time for right now. So she was really good at just coaching and making you look at yourself in the mirror and not
Yeah.
have excuses and just keep stepping up.
That sounds amazing. Just a different perspective, right? Same situation, same thing, everything, just a different
Yes.
lens. Yeah.
Yes.
So those were your two. Any others?
Well, my greatest mentor, I'd say, is who I call my Aunt Betty. She was never actually my aunt, but she was my godmother. And she just passed away this last year
Sorry.
at 85. She had an amazing life, amazing journey. And she was, as you just said, right? She was that perspective. She would come with a different perspective. But she had an amazing journey. She was also very entrepreneurial and had built up this nonprofit in New York City called Project Renewal. After 40 years, they helped tons and tons of homeless people rebuilding their lives. She spearheaded really innovative initiatives like the mobile clinics they would have throughout the city. And I mean, just an extraordinary woman, incredibly generous. Just everybody who's ever met her, that's the word they use to describe her, just generous. And she will forever be my greatest mentor, just so consistent, such perspective, so grounded. And I'd say the one thing is when she was with you, she really saw you. She just, it didn't matter who you were, didn't matter what you did or didn't do, you know, whether it was me, whether it was the homeless person she was dealing with, whether it was a colleague, she just really saw you. And it was that ability to connect and see something in you that maybe you don't see. And to me, that's leadership. She was able to really encourage, but inspire me, and I think many others, to actually become that, to actually live into that person or that potential that she really saw when she was looking at you.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, that's amazing that you had someone in your life like that. That's
Very fortunate.
good stuff. Good stuff. So, what changes have you seen at where you're at? How over the course of time? What are some major changes that have come about, like that you've been part of, or that have changed, like in your industry, over the years since you've been there?
Major changes would be in how we run training programs and how we actually help students and how the training is delivered. So when I started, they were delivering training. Everything was in person, everything was live on a flip chart, and a lot of one-on-one coaching in person. And, you know, part of what I have done has really been, how do we bottle up that? How do we bottle up what works? Or whether it's the raw talent of different faculty members, or that experience in the classroom, or that experience that's happening in that one-on-one setting when you're tutoring someone. And how do we scale that? How do we make it so that, you know, you're not located in the same place, or you maybe don't have the money to spend on the high-end one-on-one experience, but you can still have that sense of personalization and that sense of that somebody's checking in on me and somebody actually is invested in my experience digitally and wherever you are. So that's really been, I'd say, in that vein, the changes that we've seen over time, whether it was, you know, of course, getting courses online. Okay, yes, that's step one. Right. But, you know, how did we, one of the things my business partner, Brian, is really great at is the automation behind the scenes and building the logic so that, you know, you do this in the system and so it flags that. And so a real person is reaching out to you saying this, right? And there's so much of that that is just happening now automatically. Thousands and thousands of emails and personal interactions are triggered now every month automatically, which is just so cool because for the person on the other end, it's still very meaningful to get an email that's, yes, I did just score this thing on my test and I am testing in 2 weeks and and just have a real person be reaching out to you and ask, hey, do you need anything? Makes a big difference. So that's been a big one. And then now through COVID, everything went digital first, of course. So now really flipping the classroom and how students learn more asynchronously first, but then come together for virtual live experiences that are more focused on Q&A. And that's a big distinction versus, you know, in the old way, you sit there and you're listening and you're taking notes to a lecture. And now those live times are reserved more for you. What are your questions and how do we make it more of an interactive experience? so that, when we're really all together, it's most beneficial versus just sitting there and absorbing content. So those have been some big changes just in terms of our day-to-day core business, our business model that I've seen over the years.
Gotcha. And what's your day-to-day look like now?
So now my day-to-day,
Much
it really-
different than years ago, right?
yeah, it's much different. I mean, because we have an incredible team now. We have, every aspect of the business that I used to be a part of. Now there's a team that does these things. And so it's really exciting to see just the type of people that we have and all the clients we're able to service because of that, because of the processes. And so stepping back and now being more involved in the leadership team, coaching different leaders, of course, working on strategy and where are we going. But my passion these days is really working on our new venture, our new courseware. Now that we've seen integrating the personalization, not only, yes, can we do it at scale, but the methods that we've brought into it actually drive better outcomes for students, caring about how people are doing, being there on the other end for a 10-minute phone call. They actually have quantifiable results, a human-centric approach. And we're bringing some of that now and broadening that out, that personal and that performance-based training that we do. And we're bringing that more to professional development and leadership development beyond taking the exam, because people have a lot more high stakes moments in their career beyond just taking this test.
Yeah.
And so I spend a lot of my time now working with the team on what is going to be the next chapter for our business and the new content and the new courseware that we're building out.
Still in the same vertical, same audience, just the next chapter of their learning?
Yes, for now. I think it's certainly it's universally applicable. Performance development and high performance training, it's universal. But for now, we're really focused on who is our student today. Many times they are a young financial professional just building their career. Oftentimes we meet people in their onboarding experience. And how can we help them with the next part of their journey? So now we've got you licensed, but how do we help you keep building into really being ready and succeeding in your career? So for now, we're really focused on that audience, and then we'll see. We might broaden from there.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, let's pass your test. Great, have at it. But now you're kind of being that lifeline along the way to help them throughout their career. That's great. That's a natural segue, seems like. So good for you guys. Good for you. So what after the new courses and the rollout in your industry? Let's talk about your industry, maybe a little bit more broad. What do you see coming down the line? What's new in your industry, or even for your audience specifically? What's new, and what do you see on the horizon coming up? Especially, I mean, I don't want to say the term, but I know you're going to say it. But so go ahead. What's coming down the time?
Yes, I think we all know AI is here.
There it is.
AI is coming, right? So to me, I am not one to speculate. What is it going to mean? And I don't have the answers, certainly. So will it change the industry? I'm sure. Will it eliminate certain jobs? Probably. But who knows? Who's to say? What I've been focused on and what I'm looking at is just how the shift. There's a lot of shifts happening at once. With this shift in AI is happening at the same time that Gen Z is also entering the workforce. And we know that there's also just different consistent challenges or differences that we see in Gen Z compared to other generations. So I'm really curious about, and of course, as it relates to what we're building, how does this in particular impact Gen Z? And what are the skills? I mean, let's assume, okay, if AI is going to disrupt careers and the day-to-day jobs that people have now, what is going to matter later? Like, what is going to matter? And I think it's going to be, of course, emotional intelligence, of course, communication and presence, problem solving, creativity. And to me, that's what I'm really fascinated about right now. What are going to be the things that will go away and hopefully make all of our lives better? But what are going to be the things, and I think especially in the world of education, that are going to still require a human being? Can a human being still be involved in your learning? Do you still want a human involved in your learning? Or do you want to outsource all of it? And is it just more efficient? And where do you need a human and where don't you? And I think in the world of education, that's what I'm really fascinated about right now and digging into. And, there's lots of theories about what that's going to translate to. But there's been a lot of technology over the years that's been amazing and that has changed the world. But I'm still pretty bullish on humanity and humans being essential for all of our success and life satisfaction. So I'm going to keep focusing on how we keep helping humans.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Where would you like your industry to go?
That's
Is
a
that
good
different?
question. Where would I like it to go? I mean, when you say industry, I will take it the industry of education, because I think if I take it the industry of financial industry, that is so complex and massive, and there's different parts of it. But if I think about where would I like the educational industry to go,
It kind of sounds like you were alluding to that perfect blend of human and technology, right? And
yes,
understanding maybe some people learn best this way, some people learn best this way, and being able to solve that problem of how people best learn and be able to deliver that for them.
yes, I think that we're already seeing AI is a game changer in terms of personalization. So how can we, as educators, leverage AI? And I think that it's going to continue to be that curation and that perfect marriage of the educators who have the right expertise and experience with the technology. I think we all need to be a little wary of companies that might just have the technology or you might rely on ChatGPT to teach you something. But we see that often that students who are studying trying to just use ChatGPT are getting sometimes misinformation because they don't have the nuance to know actually that's an outdated regulation or rule and that's incorrect. So I think leveraging it though within the confines of a trusted source is where students will really win and educators will win because they'll be able to really increase the efficiency of creating new experiences and new materials that feel more on point and more personal to the student. And as I said earlier, that's really what we've been about for years is how do you scale that personalized approach? We all know that just sitting in a class with a teacher, think about when you were growing up and they're teaching to everyone the exact same level, the exact same content, not really taking into account your uniqueness. That doesn't work for everyone. And what I'm excited about is how we can really leverage it to be on point for more humans, to really increase the capacity of each human, to, maybe spend more of our time connecting with one another and solving problems creatively, but leveraging AI to train people in a way that gives them that confidence and fills those very specific and unique gaps to them in a way that's just harder when it's a one human to many students.
Yeah, I love it. Love it, love it, love it. It's just, it comes from passion and anybody, I assume that listens to you talk and just see that you're passionate about what you do and you care about the people that you're impacting, which is, I think 90% of success to me is just mindset, passion, and showing up and it should be commended. But what are some things that are the main thing, with our staff, or not staff, but our audience that, they want to get that CEO title or they want to know, how do I get there? How do I follow in your footsteps in your industry, different industry, but just as a professional? What are the best words of wisdom that you received, or what do you try to help the next generation to help them grow?
How much time do we have?
I just love, hey,
That's-
if you're dropping dimes and some golden nuggets,
That's my favorite topic. That's my favorite topic. I've had the privilege of being behind the scenes for over 500,000 careers. So people come through our door, they're at these very pivotal moments in their career.
which just in itself is pretty crazy.
It's
that you-
crazy.
yeah.
And that's the cool thing about with staying power, right? I stayed somewhere.
Yeah.
You really get to see a lot. And here's the dirty little secret I learned early on that also hooked me. There was somebody who came in to get tutoring, and this guy, over 6 feet, super expensive suit, Rolex. I mean, I just the sheer, how he looked, Wall Street, just wow. I was so intimidated by him. And it was very clear very quickly when he was working with our founder how overwhelmed, how stressed, how human he was. And I think that is the dirty little secret I have learned after being a part of hundreds of thousands of careers for some of the most incredible, most capable, knowledgeable professionals on Wall Street, is that everyone is stressed. Everyone is trying to figure it out. No one has it all figured out. And there's this facade that we all do or that somebody else does that actually magnifies the day-to-day stress, especially for young professionals. So the first thing I want young professionals to know is that no one has it all figured out. So it's okay that you don't. And even if you're feeling anxious, even if you're feeling overwhelmed, don't take it as a personal character defect of yourself. Just realize that that is normal, that is universal, and that's what makes us all human. Now, once you have that awareness, you can get to work making choices for yourself that will get you out of that state, and it will help you feel more in control and more powerful. So that's the first thing, is just level setting that nobody has it all together and it's okay. So that's number one. And then I would say the next thing is, so with that, so where do you go from that? You got to have a goal. You got to have a why, right? It's what's going to get you up in the morning. I tell people, spend more time than seems reasonable time traveling, like in your mind, imagining, what do you want the future to look like for yourself? What do you want it to feel like? We leverage our imagination far too often to replay the negative, forecasting of the future that we don't know is going to happen, but we're so sure, or just replaying the past. That's not helping us. So leverage your brain for visualization. Start to imagine what you want in the future and have reasons, because work is hard. Life is hard. But if you have those reasons and you have that future that you're building, that will light you up. That will give you the emotional juice to pull you through the day when it is hard. It's going to be hard. But so that would be the next thing, is like, have a future you're excited about, not because you have any reason to be, not because, going back to when I was younger, I had no reason to imagine a brighter future, but because I did, I built one. And then the next thing would be to young professionals is, yes, accountability, yes, ownership, yes, show up and do all the, we could talk forever about those high performance habits, etc. But I would say focus on progress, not perfection. Perfection is a trap. Analysis paralysis, right? It'll keep you stuck in that overthinking, and then you just don't start. Starting is the hardest part. So if you can make a little bit of progress today, that's amazing. And if then you can make a little bit of progress tomorrow, we're getting somewhere, right? And if you do that enough times, and ideally you look back and acknowledge those little wins, because that will integrate them and start to compound, now you're really building something for yourself. You're starting to go places. But if you're stuck in perfection and just making the best possible plan, fearing failure, all of that, it's going to be hard to build something that you ultimately really want.
I love those. 3 of them coming out of strong. I love it. I love it. I love it. To your last point, we have a saying, don't let perfect stand in the way of good enough. Get action, because you can always deviate, right? But getting started, that's the hard part. But once you get started,
So
it's
hard.
easy to dial in. But if you don't start, it's nearly impossible to get there. So, yeah,
Exactly.
it's
0
great.
to
It's
1
great.
is the hardest part of anything.
Yes. Yeah, that's a great
So
one.
get
Yeah.
started.
Yeah, love it. Liza, anything else you want to make sure our audience, you feel that you can pass on to them?
Well, we've talked about a lot. We've talked about, everybody's stressed. I do want people to know because I'm in the business of high stakes exam training, and we quantifiably get better outcomes by doing really simple things. Helping people breathe, helping people get back into their bodies when their minds are racing. You know, when you can't remember that answer on the test, just like when you're giving a presentation and you can't remember what you're about to say, right? We all have those moments.
Yeah.
It's because you're stressed. It's because your amygdala is in the driver's seat and your prefrontal cortex has been shut down. It's not because you're not good enough. It's not because of a character defect, right? So I always want to just remind people, you're going to feel overwhelmed. If you're growing a career, you're definitely going to be faced with overwhelm and anxiety. Breathe. Imagine the bigger future that you are creating for yourself, and just take that one step. And if you do that enough, you will look back in 5 years and be incredibly proud, not because of what you have accomplished, but because of who you have become. And if nothing else, I just want to always be that person waving the flag saying, everybody feels stress. It's okay. Breathe. And just keep that next step, one after the other.
That's amazing. Amazing advice. Wow. This is a great episode. I thank you so much for being on. Liza, where can people learn more about you and Knopman Marks as well?
So our website is knopman.com, knopman.com. You can also check out on knopman.com. We've got a whole page about high performance where we're launching our career accelerator programs. I'm very excited about that. You can also find me on LinkedIn, Liza Streiff, and I'd be happy to connect.
Excellent. Thanks again, Liza. What a great talk. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, Steve. Have a
All
great
right.
day.
You as well. Everybody, stick around, subscribe, stay around for more content. Thanks.